Okay, so this is the Photography Brothers podcast, and we have a very special guest for everybody today who we will reveal momentarily here after a great song from Michael. Michael's going to be supplying the song, so we're all very excited for that. But before we jump in there, I want to ask you guys, I could say, what is a good movie that you saw recently? I want to talk about movies for a second because our guest has a movie connection. Again, no spoilers. But yeah, I think it would be too easy and too movie podcasty to talk about a good movie that we saw. So I want to say, what's the last movie that you guys watched?
We actually rewatched 21 Jump Street the other day, and that was the first time
nice.
I had seen it since the theater experience. So it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's hilarious.
You've seen the sequel?
Oh yeah, that one was a little bit more underwhelming, but it was still okay. Still had some good laughs in it.
Yeah, I kind of remember it the same, but it's been a while since I've seen either, so I should go back. But nice to have another Channing Tatum reference on the podcast.
Of course.
Is that a common occurrence?
Well, because Michael's Magic Mike, so that's his
gotcha.
Alter
I've never stated that I was, by the way, just so you know. Jared constantly refers to me as that.
I don't know. We can go back into the records, Michael. These conversations have been recorded, and we'll see what the first reference to you being Magic Mike was. Because I'm gonna
get Arrow to look back.
Yeah. We'll get Arrow. Check back. Let us know whatever it is. We can put a notice here who's right. Yeah. What about you, man? Over there drinking your sparkling water. What's the last movie that you've seen?
Well, in the light of the recent holiday here, my girlfriend revealed to me that she didn't remember the movie Independence Day at all.
At all?
So we
man.
we watched it halfway through. She's like, I don't know if I've ever seen this. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
all right. So we watched Independence Day a couple days ago. So.
Phenomenal effects, man. I there's good things in that movie, like the Will Smith performance and stuff at his peak. He's very movie star, right? Very energetic in that film. But just the effects, right? Those explosions and stuff, and they hold up. Like, you want to check those.
Oscar winning.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of practical work there as well. So not just
it made me miss
digital.
using miniatures as special effects is something I think we need to go back to. Is using
and in a lot of ways, man, it's cool to do CGI and stuff like that, and I do get the appeal. But yeah, I miss some of the practical stuff. And speaking of that, I was actually watching a horror movie last night with quite a few practical effects. I didn't finish it because I had to go to bed to get up and do a little work and prep for the podcast. But
I
will finish it later. It's pretty decent. The Void, a little horror movie, of
that sounds familiar.
Lovecraftian, I guess you could say, except not racist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That movie's pretty good. It's really clever. It uses its budget super well.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it has a big budget, but definitely effective and some good scares, and got me thinking a few things. I'm pretty excited to finish it. Probably after I finish up the podcast here, I'm going to do a little more recording, and then maybe I'll finish watching that movie. Probably sounds like a good idea. But yeah, that should be enough banter here. We don't want to make Arrow loop the intro here too many times. So
right.
and Michael has a masterpiece in store for us. So I think we
I'm
better
excited
get
about it.
I'm excited too. Better get into the song here, Michael. You ready?
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. This is my third time doing this. I have
playing guitar.
I'd say successfully do it. Yes. Never. I don't know. I thought this was a piano sitting in the corner of my room. All right. Now,
pianos do have strings,
very...
so I could see how you could get confused.
Yes, it's true. There are various similarities, of course. Okay. Well, now we're not going to go classic rock here. We're going to go a bit more mainstream.
Wow.
Try to appeal to a broader audience here. Bring them into the PHOTOBROS. Yeah.
Get ready for Michael's cover of WAP. Here it comes.
All right. I've practiced this enough. Hopefully I don't mess this up. All right.
That's okay. No
I don't know
pressure.
how to hold. How do you hold the guitar here? I guess
No
it doesn't
pressure.
need to be
No
in frame.
pressure.
I know, but now I feel the pressure, Jared. And when you
gotta
say
hold
no
it up.
pressure,
You gotta hold it up.
I'm not holding it up.
Hold it like the Beatles.
I'll show my guitar.
He has one.
okay,
It's
sweet.
got
Okay.
stickers. You know it's good because it has
it's actually
stickers.
engravings. It's actually engravings.
It's kind
Sorry,
of
that's a
punk
terrible
rock.
sound.
Looks punk.
Thanks, man. Far from, but I appreciate it. I'm gonna try doing this and not totally butcher the show off the bat. We'll try it out. I already messed it up. One more second here. Okay.
It's cool.
All right. It's a slower one. Get ready. 3, 2. Actually, I'm gonna take off. Should I take off an earbud? I'm scared you guys are gonna laugh and then it's gonna mess me up. I'm sorry.
No,
this is the
we won't-
longest
I
it's
won't
taken
laugh.
to do.
I won't laugh out
We'll
loud.
be
I will
quiet.
not say a
We'll be
word.
quiet.
All right. Cool. All right, here we go. It's just a little podcast about photography. Talking topics, news, sometimes interviews with Jared and me. This time we got Nate on the show. We'll see how it goes. If it's a waste of his time, who knows? It's the Photo Bros.
Nicely done, buddy.
Well done.
Thank you. Small bump,
Love
Ed
it.
Sheeran. Let's go.
Quiet claps to not peek out the mics.
All right.
Well done, man. Who is
proud
that?
of that
Is that Jack Johnson or something again?
Stop. You say Jack Johnson every time. This guy mocks me. I like these singer-songwriter guitar guys. Like Ed, it's Ed.
What's wrong with Jack
early
Johnson?
Ed.
Oh, it's Ed. Nothing. I like Jack Johnson. It's good times.
Jack Johnson's dope. The actor
It's very
is pretty
chill.
awesome as well.
Anyway, yeah, as I said, this is the Photography Brothers. I am your photographer, Jared Poirier. Very excited to be on the show today. About 1/3 through my coffee, so getting caffeinated here. We have another great photographer who's wearing... Oh, crap. I was going to try to distinguish you guys by saying who's wearing a blue shirt, but you're both wearing dark blue shirts. Who's wearing a blue shirt with flowers.
Michael Costa, also a photographer and Ed Sheeran cover artist.
An Ed Sheeran superfan. And we have another photographer, if you can believe it, dear listeners, who's wearing a blue short sleeve dress shirt, but without flowers.
That's right. Nate Fischer here.
Nice.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, Nate and I go way back. Give you guys a little backstory here. In the early days of my journeys here on YouTube, I actually started doing movie reviews. So now you know why we were talking movies at the beginning of the show here. And I think, was that your first ever YouTube channel as well, Nate? It
was.
the movie review channel. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, man.
Yes, Cinema Buffs was my first YouTube channel. And I started with my buddy just because him and I at work used to just shoot the shit about movies all the time and talk about it in depth. And he had such different opinions on them and things like that. And so I was looking to just use my camera more and get more practice with lighting and things like that. And so we just decided to do movie reviews together, and we did it for about 3 years. So yeah, it was great. It was a great time to talk movies and have an excuse. That's the one thing I miss about it, is just, especially during the pandemic, is just talking with people about movies, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you can always call me and talk about movies if you want, Nate.
I know. Which I think, I want to add that it feels like we've known each other for a really long time, Jared, but like this is the first time I've ever spoken to you.
Like actually spoken, other than like
Yeah.
texting each other and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
We've never actually had a conversation together.
I've definitely listened to you talk for like, I don't know, hours.
Same with you.
So,
like,
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So,
But it's
But
good
yeah,
to
that's
be
pretty much-
good to be chatting with you in almost person.
same. Almost. One day in person. One day it'll happen in person.
Yeah, it's just a flight away there, you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're not going to talk about movies probably anymore, but we might. But mostly we're
come
gonna
in,
it'll probably come in. It's related. Mostly we're gonna talk about photography, and maybe a good jumping off point is to just talk a little bit about the type of work that you do now, right? So you're not really doing any more movie content.
Right.
So what's the kind of stuff that you've been doing these days? I know that you shoot a little bit professionally, but you also do a little bit of kind of your own work on the side, right?
Yeah, so I do freelance videography in Grand Rapids, Michigan, just on my own. And then I also work in Kalamazoo, Michigan for a media group as well. And that's a little bit more high-end commercial work. And that's photo and video. So we do high-end commercial photography and videography. I've learned so much at this company, especially about photography, because the person that heads up our photography department is one of the smartest, most talented photographers I've ever met. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. And then I do have my own YouTube channel right now, which is super random and all over the board, but it's vlogs and short films and just life advice and just all sorts of different things. So, and sometimes there's like tutorials as well. So
I'd say the through line of your new content, like if I had to kind of, like write a slogan, I'd say that it's like personal. Like it's just kind of, it's like, it's a vlog in that sense to me, right? Because it's like whatever you're honestly thinking about kind of at the time. And yeah, very, very personal and always thought provoking though as well. Like every time that I watch it, I always kind of, it definitely relates to my life, like as a content creator when I watch your stuff and, kind of the personal, struggles and balance that you're trying to achieve and whatnot with the content. So yeah, I like it a lot, man. We'll definitely, we'll definitely link it so everybody can check it out. And it's cool that you do the photo work, but also video, kind of a big thing about this. We had to call the podcast something, and the Videography Brothers is a
right. It's a mouthful.
It's a very clunky name for a podcast. So, but Michael and I both do photo and video work as well. I've actually been predominantly doing the video side, but I do enjoy doing photo shoots. So anybody listening to this podcast, if you want to do a photo shoot, hit me up. It would be fun.
Yeah,
man.
And what about Michael? Is it Michael? Mike? What should I call you?
Yeah, Michael's not really talking much on the podcast. He's
I haven't had a chance. No, usually kick it off.
I'm curious because I know a lot about Jared, but I'm sure the listeners already know about you guys quite a bit. But Michael, do you like specialize in photography, or do you do more video, or both?
It's interesting, man. I'll keep it short, but basically, like prior to pandemic, I would 100% say I am 90% of my work is photo, and that's like I love photography. When I'm picking up passion projects, it's usually around that. But what I noticed for some strange reason was that during the pandemic, majority of the gigs that were coming through were video, and so I've had this great opportunity to grow and like. Learn a lot more about how to do that and build my confidence around it. And so now actually I do shoot a lot of video, and I work as a video specialist at a company down here as well.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to know the backstory. I wasn't really sure about that. So
yeah,
very cool. So you're very well versed in photography though.
I don't like saying I'm well versed in anything, but I mean,
no photographer.
I've been
likes
doing it
well
for a while, and I understand the rules. And yes, I'm very uncomfortable with my job title as well. But maybe that's another subject. But yeah, a little bit of both, I'd say now.
I mean, my job title at the Kalamazoo company I work for is media specialist, because they're like, we don't know what you are. You do everything. So media specialist. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I don't consider myself a specialist, but it's just like jack of all trades is more of like what you say probably.
You know what? The interesting thing about that, and this might be an interesting thing to talk about. I'm not too sure. We'll see where it goes. But I think there is something about it when you're really in it. You're in video. You're in photo. You always know that there's someone doing more or doing better work, right? Or at least you feel that way when you admire them and you're constantly monitoring their work. So I feel like it's hard for us to ever get past that imposter syndrome, because it's like, okay, but I know I could do better. Like I know I could shoot something better than I do now. I know I could integrate this into my work. And so it's hard for us to like consider ourselves a specialist at something, but we have to maybe evaluate what the general public is at. When someone asks you, I guess where you classify your skill level, like how would you answer that? I guess I'd be curious to know.
For me,
yeah,
That it's a super tough question. I completely agree with you because I've always been very humble and modest in those type of topics, and you're right. There's just so much more to learn, but I'll have these little moments of enlightenment where it makes me feel good, where someone like won't understand a basic lighting like a full-grown adult won't understand how light works in a basic manner, and I'm like, maybe I do know a lot more than I mean, I let myself believe that I know. So I would say that when it comes to video, photo, if you want to lump it all together, I would put myself at like a 7. Maybe.
Hey, dude,
maybe I'm.
That's
I don't know.
That's good.
That's fair.
I think that's a safe number. So
fair.
it doesn't make me sound cocky, and it doesn't make me sound like an amateur.
So you're probably actually a 9, and then that's usually you just add on. You know what I mean?
It's possible. I have to like sometimes be like, oh yeah, Nate, you have been doing this for 20 years, so why not like own up to that a little bit? But I always feel like there's always so much more to learn. There's probably 12-year-olds out there that are doing better work than I am because they grew up with all this technology, So who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we spoke to with our previous guest, Alexi, right? Is like when you're constantly improving and you're constantly researching and stuff like that, which like all of us kind of can't help but do, your baseline of like quality and ability just kind of keeps moving up to the point where it's like you're starting there. You know what I mean? Like you get to the set and then you've already have like all that experience. So it doesn't feel like super brilliant to you that you're like, oh yeah, like we're going to obviously shoot with the light, maybe I'll put like a backlight here, kind of separate the subject from the background. And, I'll record with the microphone close to their face. Right. And like, just for you, that's just like baseline stuff that you like have to do. Checklist, check, did those things, right? This, put your camera on HD and don't shoot it in 720. Oh wow.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Get your frame rate right. There's all these things, but they just kind of become like your baseline background. It's important to give yourself some credit, right? And working with people who are less experienced sometimes brings that home to you as well, right?
Right.
I was just gonna say that, like, anything taught is twice learned type of thing. So like whenever I'm teaching somebody, I'm like, man, I'm teaching them a lot right now. So like whenever someone's teaching me a lot, I try to realize that I have a lot of this knowledge to teach others as well. But it is those basic things like put the sandbag on the front thing, make sure the knuckles are on the right, like all those stupid little things that you have to know on set that a lot of interns or people just starting out don't know. So all that stuff is just as valuable. It seems insignificant at the time, I guess.
It's important to give yourself some credit. That's what we're here to do.
That's the lesson. Exactly.
We're here to give you some credit, Nate. Welcome.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. We're going to give you some credit here, buddy. Before we get into the main subject of today, because we do kind of have an overarching place where I think we're sort of headed. But as we get there, I do want to talk a little bit about gear, because we do like to talk about gear on the podcast. Believe it or not, it's a long-standing, quarrel, a lover's quarrel between Michael and I in regard to gear. But I was wondering what Michael's like very, very worried. I was wondering what gear are you shooting on these days in terms of we might as well talk cameras first. Let's talk cameras.
Sure. Yeah. Right now, for my personal business, I shoot mostly on the EOS R. If I'm needing a 2-camera setup, I also have my 60D, which I shot on for like 8 years and still produces an okay image or whatever. But the EOS R is my main right now. And then I have a Sennheiser mic and a Rode mic as well. So the Rode is normally what I'll use for ease, but I'll use the Sennheiser if I want something a little bit more high quality in audio.
Very cool. And how are you finding, because like I'm kind of on that borderline where, I'm still doing the old school DSLR thing, and you were as well. How did you find that jump into mirrorless cameras? Like, was it pretty seamless where you just like bought that camera and then right away went to shoot and it was like, oh, this is easy? Or like, was it way different and there were a lot of hurdles and you kind of had to train a lot before going into that shoot?
It was super easy to integrate right over to it. And I think I have to pretty much base that on like, I went back and forth with Sony and a lot of different cameras to go with, but it really is the menu screens, the interface, and the accessibility that the Canon has. And it really was very familiar to pick up and go. and to find the new features that you want on there. So there was no trouble integrating into the EOS R. I'm super happy with the camera. I'm still very, very impressed with it. So I encourage people. I mean, you and I talked about it a little bit, Jared, but just like these cameras are very, very powerful now. And cinema cameras seem to be something that's not quite as necessary. But maybe that's a different conversation entirely. So depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, no, we can speak to that for sure. You know, that's the fact that cameras are getting so good. I mean, I'm still very impressed with even what I get out of my 6D, even when it comes to video footage and stuff like that. Right? It is a full frame camera, but that is one of the things that was kind of I just wanted to ask you about that. I'm sure it's been on. If it's on my mind, it's probably on a lot of other people listening. It's probably on their mind as well. Like that's one of the big concerns, right? Is switching over. And one of the things that I do love about Canon is that ability to like at this point, like the controls are very well set up, and I can literally like use this camera backwards, right? Like I can be vlogging and like go in, change the color temperature, adjust the volume and stuff like that, and you're still finding that like if for someone who's like super used to shooting on one of those DSLRs, like the mirrorless is satisfying that, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good jump to go. I mean, whenever you're buying a camera in the market, you just it's really easy to be tempted by the bells and whistles of a camera, but really you have to ask yourself what you want out of the camera. Like, what are you using it for first?
For sure.
And sometimes you might just be like, you know what, everything I need is on my phone. So do I need a camera at all? You know,
Exactly,
you sort of have to really ask yourself what you want out of it. There's a couple things that I'm a little upset about it, which I knew I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but with shooting 4K, it's such a buzzword when you're shooting commercial work. So you'll have a person be like, oh, you shoot 4K? Yeah, we want 4K. The crop is really big on the EOS R. It's a very large crop, so that kind of sucks. And then also, it doesn't have 120 frames per second in 1080. And that's a little upsetting as well. So it's just 60 frames in 1080.
That's unfortunate, but not bad. I mean, you can still get away. You can still do slow-mo with that, right? So
for sure. Yeah, especially like I'm not trying to do ultra slow-mo or anything like that. But those are the two features I wish I would have done a little bit more research on, because I know Sony excels in a lot of those places.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that then. Let's bring Michael in. Let's bring Michael in here. What are some features of like that Sony has, you think, over Canon, Michael?
I mean, it's obviously going to depend on the models you're comparing, but I think, when we're talking about EOS R and I'm shooting on an A7 III right now, that is one of those things. You're shooting 4K, no crop. You're getting 120 frames on 1080. And then everything else, I think, is not like, I don't think it's drastically different. I think that the stabilization is a bit better than the previous iterations, which is basically, for me, it was an upgrade. I had the A7 II. I was happy with it, but I was shooting a lot more video, and I just, I maybe I didn't need to upgrade. Maybe I didn't need to make that jump. But with me shooting a bit more, I wanted to have that 4K capability just in case, like, hey, when I want to crop in and edit, like I can, and I'm not going to lose much. When I want to have that flexibility to add in a bit more slow-mo and make things a bit more dynamic, I can. And maybe it was a bit of like a jump ahead. Maybe I just found a good deal. It was a pretty decent price point, and I just kind of made that upgrade. But certainly from the A7 II up, it felt really nice. But yeah, honestly, and when comparing the two models, I don't think that there's much different, much that's noticeably different other than those two things.
Can I ask you something that I hear, which I haven't had a ton of experience with the Sonys that much, but how's the low light? Because I heard that the low light capabilities is just exponentially better than Canon.
I haven't had issues. I can say that. I've had some shoots recently that it weren't that low light, but they were decent, and I was shooting at 1600, and I don't know, it was fine. Yeah. I haven't had to push it too far down. But no
I
real
can definitely
issues.
I can speak to that a bit, Nate. I used I believe it was the Sony A7 II or III on a shoot one time, and it was incredibly low light because it was like the kind of a tour of a bar space. Yeah, and there was like hardly any light inside, and like the footage was looking really nice. In order to even like on my other camera that I was shooting photos on, I had to, you know, do some tricks, kind of long exposures and stuff like that to get the photos looking really, really tight. And just shooting video even in slow-mo, the low light capabilities are pretty good. But I mean, I can't really compare that to, I'm kind of comparing, you know, a DSLR to mirrorless. So I wonder,
Right.
you know, we'll have to get together and test it sometime, man. Maybe that would be a good video idea.
Yeah, do a little side by side. I like that idea.
Do a
Yes,
little
we
side
should
by side
definitely
there.
compare your 6D Mark II to my A7 III. We should make the video. We'll test your
that would
4K.
be- actually.
yeah, that would be a fun video. Anyway,
I'd watch that video.
It would just be full of chirps.
Somehow my
It'd be
footage is
great.
better.
Somehow, I'm like, how are you shooting
Somehow.
4K? Magic lantern.
Magic lantern, dude. Yeah, you never
You
know.
can shoot 10K.
You never know. Yeah, it might be. I want to talk a little bit more about your audio stuff too, man. Just quickly,
Sure.
before we get any deeper in here. So you mentioned that you have the Rode Shotgun Pro, which is a very nice shotgun mic. I use that as well. And you mentioned something about a Sennheiser mic. Is that like a lapel setup?
Yeah, so the shotgun mic, the Rode, that's what I'll use mostly for my YouTube stuff. I love the Rode shotgun mic that I use, and I've done it for commercial work as well, where I'll just put it on a boom pole and it produces great audio. And also not having to sync in post is kind of nice as well.
Very nice. Yeah.
And then I have an H4n recorder that I hook up a Sennheiser boom mic for if I want, like, that's more like studio recording if I'm doing voiceover things or really wanting that like high quality, high end, crisp audio. I'll hook that up as well. I rarely, if ever, use lapels. I don't.
Okay, why not?
I don't care for them too much. So, just because, well, recently with I'll just say Elemental, that's the media group, but with Elemental, we used them during the pandemic, and it was such a kind of a pain in the ass because we were sanitizing them, like we couldn't touch anybody. So we had to
Right,
hand them over
yeah.
to them and teach them how to apply it to themselves. And
Yeah.
and we were just like, you know what, we're not going to use lapels for a little bit because this is just not working. But lapels just always seem to have the ability to get scratched up, or the audio is touching something, or I mean the microphone's touching something. So those are the two mics I use in my own work, but I don't think I own lapels, and if I do, I don't know where they are.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I use lapels pretty often. Depends on the scenario, right? Like for the podcast, obviously, I want to have the aesthetics of this,
Right.
the aesthetics of a microphone, and probably at the end of the day, no one would ever know the difference if I just had a lapel pinned on myself. The reason why I do like using lapels, and I think this is like a good conversation to be listening in on for anybody that wants to start doing some video work, because this is actually pretty interesting, pretty enlightening to hear like the different approach. But I would find that setting up like boom mics, or like having somebody there to set it up, because a lot of my shoots it's just me, or like me and one other person. So
Sure.
the lapel system works incredibly well. I'll give you another example. Like I shoot for restaurants, right? Like cooking demos and stuff. So let's say that like the chef is moving through the kitchen, right? Like one end to the other. You're getting that exact same consistent audio as he's moving around. And if you were trying to like boom mic that, you're like what, chasing him around with boom mic. So yeah, just for the simplicity of it, I do like lapel mics, and Sennheiser does make an excellent lapel system that I'll probably grab. But I do get what you're saying. Sometimes when it gets like chafed up on the shirt, and then you're just like getting frustrated, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you're absolutely right. There are like, you know,
There's
if you're
scenarios, yeah.
there are scenarios. If you're doing an interview shoot and they want to do it outdoors and it's a windy day, a lapel might be your best way to go, unless you have a really good dome or dead cat to put on your mic or something like that. But maybe I just need more experience with them, because I'm sure the technology has advanced along like to avoid those types of problems you would have on a shirt or you know, anything like that. So maybe I should get back into them.
Yeah, maybe, man. If you want I want some advice again, you can call me. We'll talk about the movies that you watched recently and lapel mics. My two favorite topics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes back in my paranoid days where I was unsure of myself, I I would mic up everything I possibly could. Like my phone would be recording and the lapel mic and the boom mic. And I'm like, if I don't get audio, this project's ruined, you know, that responsibility. So like I would have
your client looks like one of those when a politician is speaking and they've just got like microphones,
just mics like everywhere.
NBC,
exactly.
Fox, wall to wall. You're just like
Austin Matthews post game.
They're like, who are we sending this audio to? You're like, no, it's just for me, guys.
It's just for me.
I like to have a lot of sources.
Any one of these could just break for no reason at any time for some reason.
True,
so,
man.
I was very cautious back in the day.
Michael, do you have any thoughts on that, man? You've done quite a bit of video work too.
Yeah, no, I actually had a question because when you were answering the question around camera setup, you mentioned that the EOS R is your primary for personal. So for commercial work, what are you using camera wise? Because I'm very curious to know what that is.
For commercial wise, for like, what am I using camera wise?
You sounded like you had two separate setups. Yeah. For camera.
Well, for my personal end, it depends on what the client is asking for. So like I'll use the EOS R for a lot of my commercial work, but through Elemental, I have access to rental to that equipment. So if the client wants something a little more high quality, I'll rent the red helium, or I'll get like a C300 or something like that, just to like up it a little bit. But once again, the red is amazing. Of course, the image that it gets, but the footage can be a nightmare to edit, and the setup of that camera, it's a computer. So like you're sitting there and you're hitting the button, you're like, hold on to the client. It just needs to boot up. Give me 45 seconds, like those types of things. And so it's just like, it's kind of a monster to set up. And I like the more run and gun approach. So in all instances, if a client wants, if they don't care, I'm going to use the EOS R for sure.
It's interesting because I feel like, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, I think even Peter McKinnon published a video fairly recently talking to this, but, as these, consumer accessible, cameras come out, like the A7 IIIs and, the EOS Rs and stuff like that, and they keep getting more powerful. I feel like, who's buying a red now? You know what I mean? Like, is it's more so, if it's at, if the media company you're working for or the agency has it on, then that's great, but they're probably just renting it or picking it up on a client per client basis. Yeah. Yep. I feel like sales are not great, and they're probably going to get even worse. And who's going to own a red? Who will own a red? Yeah.
I don't feel any need. Red, I think Red as a company, I'm hoping that they're going to start going to a more low cost camera, because they now have like a smaller version, which is like $6,000, which is pretty affordable for Red. Like, so I'm hoping there's just going to start going to that, maybe even the Black Magic market, where it's like the pocket cinema cameras and these types of things, where it's just more accessible and easy to use, So
now that has had some overheating issues, but I guess kind of makes sense when you try to pack that all down. But but the Red, it eats batteries. The batteries alone are $200 a piece, and like it's really cool in post. You can like adjust the ISO in post with Red footage, which is like it's so much information, but like I don't know, it's the trade-off. It's really what you're looking for. It goes back to like, what do you want out of your camera? What's necessary.
Yeah, I guess my last question on that, if you were doing real filmmaking, right? If you were making a feature, I guess, but
exactly, yeah.
My last question on that before we pivot over to, I know, the main subject we want to get to is, for me personally, I haven't had the opportunity to work with some of those higher end cinema cameras. And I think for people like myself who have, that are in the same boat, like it definitely seems like an intimidating beast to get behind. And so, one question I had for you, you mentioned obviously a couple things there, the long startup times sometimes with those, the battery life and on some, but like what really differs when you're behind the camera, shooting on a Red versus shooting on your EOS R?
The weight of it, I think, is it's just not a comfortable camera to hold. yeah, which is more of a build out when you're going to have more handles or anything like that, or you're going to have an easy rig or a steady rig, which is going to kill your forearms or something like that.
I was going to ask, you do look like you've been training a bit, so
not really, just holding the camera, yeah, but
just curling reds,
right? Yeah,
curling 2 reds.
yeah, and also just autofocus. Like I love autofocus, and the red, you have to have a separate monitor and someone pulling focus.
Really?
And that's a whole well, you don't have to. You can pull focus yourself if you're really good, but there's just
no
a lot.
auto.
There's no auto.
Oh, wow.
No auto, yeah, that's crazy.
So it's a little daunting, you know. So like, I still consider myself, if we're talking about experience and it's the red, I would give myself a 4 on that one. Like, it's
That's
still
pretty high,
intimidating.
Well,
Yeah,
you beat
it's
me and
still-
Michael 0 on that one.
Yeah.
bro.
So, when I first started working with it, I like didn't even want to touch it. I'm like, I don't know, this scares me. So I'm still getting used to it and everything. But I think now I would be okay on my own with it. But I haven't rented it. I've been working there for a year and a half, and I still haven't rented it for myself because I haven't found a use for it. This camera's great, you know.
Yeah, man. The
The
footage
setup
in this
time's longer
podcast
too, right?
is incredible.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, man. Oh, we better get into the main topic of today's episode, which I really love, Nate. When I brought this, or kind of brought the idea of doing the podcast, and we were kind of wondering. I don't think we even really needed to pick a subject. Apparently,
Doing all right so far.
we did pretty well without one. But you know, just in case, I do like this. This kind of this approach, and I do like talking about this specific thing, and I think it's something that we could really have fun with getting into here, and it's related a lot to my life and work right now as well. So definitely wanted to dig in to the difference and kind of just, you know, I guess the easiest way to say it is personal work versus professional work. You know, how important each is, and, you know, kind of how your approach differs, I suppose, to each. Maybe the best way to jump into this is, you know, you mentioned, you know, just like Michael, you have a full-time kind of media job, you know. So do I. It's my own company, I guess, so I could just like not do it if I didn't want to. I'd have a hard time paying rent if that were the case, right? But you know, when I guess for all three of us, like when we are always working in this and it's our day job, like our 9 to 5, why do you think it's important to still do that for yourself on the side? You know, why do you still have your own personal YouTube channel when you're doing this all day anyways?
Yeah. Who's starting with this? Who's talking about this now?
Well, you're the guest. I mean, you could probably go.
Hey,
first.
you
I'll
should go,
start.
man.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
We'll get Michael some mileage later, but
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is such a relatable topic to like, we all got into this because we love it, not because we were like, ooh, we're going to get rich. Like, we all knew the risks we took when we got into this type of thing. And I would say for most people, it starts with passion. You know, you're a kid making movies with your friends, you know, in the backyard or something like that. So, you know, for me with the creative juices, it is hard to keep those flowing after you're working on this type of thing. When you're doing other people's work all the time, other people's projects for them, it's hard to come home and want to do your own. You've been staring at an editing screen for the whole day so you can make a living, and then you're going to go home and stare at an editing screen again. It just doesn't sound as appealing as it used to, I guess, for the creative work. It's like,
I just got shivers. I literally got chills thinking.
I mean, it's just like, you know, a cook that is in a kitchen all day long cooking for a restaurant, and then they go home and the family's like, make us dinner, and he's like, well, I don't want to, I just made everyone else food, you know. I just
Somebody
want to
make me
stop
dinner.
making dinner, you know. It's not fun anymore.
Right.
So the YouTube channel has been a really great outlet, but it's all about time, I guess. To just, the pandemic, I don't know about you guys, you can speak to this, but I felt a complete hindrance on creativity. Like I didn't, it was
Yes.
hard for me to come by any type of ideas during the pandemic. So maybe you guys can relate to that. I don't know. What do you think?
I had the same experience personally. I, you know, for some reason all these people were finding this like motivation to do things and like learn something new, add something new. Photographers that hadn't been shooting for a while that I knew within the community were shooting, and I guess it's just different people and how it affects them. But for me personally, I found the same thing. I just found that I was creatively drained. I didn't want to get out, but I also did, and it was this conflicting battle I was having with myself. What I found personally, and I'd be interested to know kind of how you adapted to the situation. I know you've been creating YouTube recently, so that's been awesome to hear. But for me personally, it was like I just gotta like do something different. I gotta just, you know, the best part about, like you said, when you're a kid, you're trying out new camera techniques when you're shooting that short with your friends, right? You're trying out that new editing thing, and oh my God, we have explosions in our videos now. It's like that creative expression of trying new things and like stamping your name on it almost. And for me, it was like, you know what? I'm just going to go on photo walks. I'm just going to walk around, take my camera and just take photos. And oh my God, I was stoked to be in front of Lightroom for hours, just listening to music and editing.
Yeah.
That did it for me. I'd be curious to know, like for you, like what kind of brought it back for you?
I went online and looked up assignments. I'm a very assignment based type of person. So like, especially with photography. So I would look up like photo contests and things like that and be like, you have to take a picture of something and it has to have the color red in it. And I was like, all right, cool. That's what I'm focusing on. The color red in a photo, like those types of things. So I needed assignments. So I did a lot of those things. I just looked up people telling me what to do, or at least giving me guidelines. I feel like creativity without guidelines is finger painting. You know, you're sort of just like all over the board. You don't know what you're actually trying to produce or whatever. So I always want to have some sort of assignment or mission with the whole thing. So that helped me out a lot. And then I don't know, I guess I if you look at my channel, it really kind of has declined in the creative side. It's more of a talking head type of channel right now because I'm not making short films or anything. No one was being creative. No one was doing anything. So there wasn't even experiences to go out and have conversations to get inspiration for. You know, you're just stuck at home. So yeah, it was pretty difficult in that sense. But for me, it was more assignment based. For sure.
Nice.
I definitely made more content during the pandemic than at any other point in my life. I definitely had those moments though of just feeling demotivated, like you guys were talking about, and being like, what is the point of doing this sometimes, right? Especially when like, you know, like you're not making direct cash off of it, like post a video and YouTube sends you a check for $1,000, not usually how it works. But a couple things, like I'm glad that you guys are kind of sharing some tips of how to address that and kind of how to get over it, right? For me, the biggest things are like putting it on a schedule, right? And whether that's like I'm going to release a video every week, or with this podcast, right? It comes out every week. I should probably edit our last episode and publish that. You know what I mean? But having a schedule and saying out in public as well that is your schedule, right? Like whether that's changing your YouTube banner and saying like, you know, just writing right on there, it's videos every week, or like saying I did daily vlogs in January like a psycho, so I said like I'm doing daily vlogs and it was daily, you know what I mean? And things like that. And I think the second big one is involving other people. Like doing this, would I produce a weekly hour-long podcast and put it on YouTube and Spotify every week if I was doing it by myself? Michael, would I do that?
Honestly, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Give yourself more credit, brother. I would not do that. I would not be able to do that without you. So,
I'm terrible at involving other people. I mean, I know that filmmaking and even photography it's a team sport. Like that's just like what it is for sure. But like I feel bad asking people for help, or like I don't know, like I want to make sure they want to be there, or they want to help, or they want to learn, you know. I sometimes feel like I'm just bothering people. And even like the people I work with at Elemental, they're like, Nate, if you got a short film, I'll DP it, let's do it. I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. And they're like, I'm offering. I'm like, I know, I don't know, I have trouble asking for help, I guess. And the work suffers for it, you know.
So
that's
I
an
gotta reach
interesting
out
point.
and ask for help.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jared, like, dude, I would not, this has been the one steady stream of content I've had throughout the last, this is episode 30. We haven't missed a week. This has been 30 straight weeks of content. And if literally, if it wasn't for this, I would have had probably nothing up on YouTube. And you know, it's like it's been an awesome experience because especially in doing this with somebody, because it's like we both get to express our opinions on these news topics, or just these topics in general that are like, oh, like, you know, I don't know. I was gonna go to one, but then I started saying like, I was gonna say the next upgrade, and that's not really the one that I meant to reference. More like, you know, how we feel about things in the industry, and then like having that opportunity for me to reflect and see how I feel, but then to hear Jared's thoughts and be like, oh wow, that's interesting. So it's been a great opportunity for us to like keep that muscle like flexed, and for me to keep creating content, but also to explore how I feel about certain things and to get that external opinion as well. So collaboration is so important. And Nate, man, like I'm telling you, even if it's just on a podcast or just a couple of YouTube videos, start doing it, man. Start doing it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, it's great advice, and it's not like new advice. Every time I collaborate with somebody else, I walk away and I'm like, that was so good. This is so awesome. I'm so happy I did that. I feel so good about that. So it is just, it's more putting yourself out there. It's like this whole industry is just taking risks and failing, but failing forward and continuing on type of thing. So, but I am curious, when you guys are flexing those muscles, or you are trying to be creative and you're kind of on your, like, what do you photography wise prefer to shoot? Like, what is your guys's, you know, what do you like to shoot? What
for
if
fun?
You could, for fun. Like if it's like, ooh, this is my type of photo shoot, what would it be?
Go ahead, Jude.
For me, like if it's just a photo shoot that I'm doing for fun, normally it'll just be something that's like convenient, shooting photos of my dogs and things like that, you know, just kind of more like family related stuff, you know, like shooting some photos with like me and my girlfriend, or like me and my girlfriend and her parents, like doing something fun, or, you know, like just little things like that. Go to someone's cottage, bring just, you know, the bare necessities, you know, maybe my 6D with a 50 millimeter on there, and just kind of shoot around and just have fun with it, right? Maybe not even shoot in RAW, you know, get really fun with it. just shoot JPEGs and just kind of play around. That way I don't... for video stuff is where I'll plan out more of a shoot and be like, okay, I'm going to make this content, like my metal content that I'm doing on YouTube, you know, I'll kind of be more formal about it, and it'll be more of a thing. But with photos, I just kind of, if I'm going to do it for fun, I'll just work it into whatever I'm doing that day, and just do something like very, very light and very like very simple, right? And just kind of practice my photography a bit, and do it in a different way where it's for enjoyment, you know, rather than, rather than proving that I'm like the best or something.
Yeah. I think that's, I don't know. You're right, shooting without limitations, just like, I'm just gonna go and do it. I'm gonna do whatever I want today type of thing.
Not even really trying to impress anybody or anything. Sometimes if it's your personal stuff, it's just like, I'm just gonna shoot these photos, and I'll play around with them a little bit in editing, and just, you know, see what happens, and just light, just fun like that.
What about you, Mike?
I mean, for me, like, I mean, just personally, I love walking around downtown, just taking like street photography. Similarly, you know, walking around on a hike. Me and my girlfriend love going on hikes, finding really nice trails and just taking cameras and just capturing what we see. And then, you know, the post edit, like the editing process is just as fun when it comes to that stuff, enhancing the colors, making it feel the way that it did when you were there. I love doing that stuff, but I mean, like as a side note, when it comes to, you know, the professionally, the kind of stuff that I want to be doing, and that I was getting some good legway on before the pandemic. I love lifestyle. I love lifestyle. Like, let's convey that point. I think a large reason for that is I loved film growing up. Like I thought I was going to enter the film industry until, you know, a couple of external factors really influenced me in the photography space. And I think that what I loved about like kind of like that commercial lifestyle work is that it kind of feels like this film set. Like you got this set, you got your models, you have this object, this piece that you're trying to convey your story around, and it's just moving everyone around to kind of get that across. And I just love doing that stuff, and I can't wait to start doing it again. How about you?
Yeah. I'm with you on the lifestyle stuff. I think that is kind of my favorite, especially in like outdoor natural settings and things like that. But never underestimate the importance and the difficulty of the job of a model, because just having good models like in your corner or like accessible to you is like very key, because it's not an easy job. So like it's hard to come by some models sometimes, especially during the pandemic and everything. But yeah, I mean, but when I'm shooting for fun, I do like going out and just doing street photography and everything, but I'm never super happy with it. It's I'm always happier with my photos that I like set up, and I try to like actually light properly and go out at the right time of day and things like that. So
big surprise the photographer is a control freak. Wow.
I know. Seriously. Just every time like
Doesn't
we do
sound
photo
like me at all.
At Elemental, we do once a month photo challenges internally. And so we have a random generator of a topic, and then it picks it. And so we all have to take one photo, and then the public votes on who wins.
Cool, man. That's really cool.
And so it's super fun, but I'm normally the one being like, I'm going to go out and just find the perfect photo. And Esther, who's the head of photography, she's always the one where it's like, I'm going to create and mold the perfect photo.
Right.
So I'm out there hoping I'll stumble upon it while she's doing the legwork and actually making it look really good. And that's taught me a lot of being like, you have to influence your environment a lot. It's really rare to just snap a perfect photo.
It is exciting when it does happen, though, when you just turn around and you're like, oh crap.
Yep, you're like, boom.
And you're like, the light is perfect even, and there's like a halo that's glowing, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it can happen.
I think that's
sure.
that's like the magical part to it, though, right? Like when you go out on a photo walk with some friends, and you know you can snap hundreds of photos that night, but you get one or two that are just like really special and unique, and those are what make it. For me personally, I think was what makes it worth it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to come out to Toronto, and we'll do a walkabout. I love a good old fashioned walkabout where you just everyone models for each other and everyone takes pictures of each other, and that's just like the day. So
I'll take my shirt off.
Yeah,
there you go. Those are good days.
I've been training for it.
It's only shirtless, all shirtless photos.
It's all shirtless photos.
I'll get started on the crunches there.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, bud. How's the ankle holding up, by the way, Michael?
My leg. Oh, watch this.
Oh, okay. He's going to do a backflip.
I'm standing.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's podcasting is audio medium, but Michael just stood up.
Yeah.
Did you guys already go over on a previous podcast? Did you guys already talk about how you hurt your ankle?
Yeah.
I don't think we did, actually. I don't think we did.
No?
Because I don't know how.
It was just playing basketball. Like, wasn't even shooting with anybody. There's like a bit of an elevation change, like between where the basketball nets are and then the rest of the park, where it's like cement to grass.
Okay.
And just put my foot, planted it in just the right way where it rolled really hard, and tore a couple ligaments, and it's been fun. It's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can stand now, so it's okay. That's good. It's looking up. Yeah.
Good chance to focus on those editing skills,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Good chance to make some content and whatnot.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Mm-hmm. So anywho, I was wondering, what do you guys do creatively video work then wise, like for yourself? Is it the same as the photo stuff? Do you like to go out and just sort of shoot B-roll and see what you get, or what do you guys like to shoot?
Yeah, we have time for that. Michael, do you want to jump on that one?
Yeah, I'll be quicker on this one. I think like for me, video has been a bit. I haven't been doing as much video-wise personally, unfortunately, but thankfully throughout the last couple of weeks, I've been picking up on it, and finally I'll be releasing a video on my YouTube channel for the first time in a few months. And honestly, I think YouTube is it. I love just making content around like whatever I want to, and I think sometimes I get deterred from it when I try to make it feel like someone else's. You start to like get influenced by other people's work too much, and I think recently I just kind of made that decision, like, what do I want to make? And it's been exciting again to kind of dive back into that.
Yeah, for me, in terms of personal stuff on the video side, less experimental than it used to be. I mean, I did the movie review thing, and then for a while I just kind of did like whatever, shot like a little action short movie with my girlfriend, or just kind of whatever fun stuff I wanted to do that's goofy, some like goofy video of my dog or something. Recently, I have gotten back in pretty seriously doing content on the Nerd channel. It used to be called Movie Nerd, so I'm repurposing it now to Metal Nerd, and I've been covering some metal bands and stuff on there, and want to do some music content. Kind of got a little bit inspired by Michael's music content, and kind of trying out some of that, more content-y content, I guess, reactions and whatnot, things that are like very, very easy to make, and pretty fun. And it's fun to get the interaction from people, even if it is like, I hate you, delete your account. It's nice, when
You've been
people talk to
getting
you.
more hate than I get. Like, I don't understand. Like,
I don't know, man.
You're not
I
always
guess,
hating
I don't
either.
know.
Is there something validating about that though?
At first it kind of is like, and you're kind of like, I don't like this, but after I thought about it for a while, I was just like, you know what, it all kind of helps the channel at the end of the day, right? Like, that's what people have to realize, is that like, if you're riling people up to the point that like they're gonna put a comment on there, and like some people would put like it's so interesting, man. Some people would put like a full like paragraphs about why I suck, and then the next guy would write paragraphs about why I'm great, and it's like, this guy's doing his own thing, man, and you should respect it, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, guys, you care about this a lot more than I do. I literally worked on this video for 20. I shot it in 10 minutes, and then I edited it in 10 minutes, and then I like pooped it out onto YouTube, and like, don't make this your day. Like,
you're like, I don't even know you guys.
Yeah,
this
I don't
weird.
even know you people. I barely like know this band that I'm reacting to. I'm just doing this 100% to have a good time. But yeah, it is interesting, man. The internet is full of passionate people. So
yeah, I remember on Cinema Buffs when we first got our like first hate comment, and we like celebrated it. Like, it's like a rite of passage. We're like, yes, someone watched our video to the end. Yeah. And then took time to like shit on us. This is awesome.
Yeah,
so.
They have like time codes, and they're like, this right
exactly.
here is why this is the downfall of,
right?
of society
like,
at 5 minutes in. What movie were you reviewing? And did you give it a negative or positive?
We gave it a negative. I can't remember what it was. I'd have to look that one up. But there was so many reviews that we did. I can't remember.
I know, it's true. My most hate was Isle of Dogs. I gave a bad review to Isle of Dogs, and people were not happy with that.
Yeah,
I still think that movie sucks, though.
Oh, that's a different podcast altogether for sure.
Maybe I'll have to bring back the Movie Nerd just for a debate with Nate on Isle of Dogs. And
yeah, seriously, I'd have to rewatch it though. I feel like it hasn't aged well, and it's not even that old.
Yeah. Anyway, but something that is aging well is this podcast, because we're over time here. But it's been awesome having you on the show here, Nate. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday. I know you're a busy guy, and I hope that it was worth your time, and hope you had enjoyed yourself here, man. But we appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it. It was nice finally talking to you in person. It was nice meeting you, Mike, as well. And honestly, if it could go longer, I would let it go longer. This has been fun, so I do appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, with all guests, we could probably do 3 hours. So we'll just have to have you back on the show for another one, and we'll talk about some more photography BS
stuff.
Sounds good.
Photography stuff. Before we go, we have some people to thank. Michael, do you want to thank some people?
Yeah, I want to thank Ed Sheeran for writing the song that I used.
Yeah, thank you, Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. Good ginge there. I think I'm also gonna thank Jared for wearing his grandpa hat. I'm gonna say 5 episodes consecutively. That's we're getting this thing going.
Best grandpa.
We're gonna get this hat big.
It's just because my hair looks bad.
I think I think you're just like stoked about the hat, dude, and that's a dope hat. Whenever you buy a new hat, you're wearing it like for the next 2 months probably. It's just how it goes. I want to thank our guest for sure. It's been awesome meeting you, and stoked for you to come down so we can do some photo walks and stuff like that.
It would be up, but Michael's
it would be
expert,
I don't know where you are exactly. If I'm honest.
I'm in Michigan. You guys can also come down, and I'll go up. But,
where do you think he was? You thought he was in Nunavut?
Yeah, I mean North Pole. I wasn't
North
sure.
Pole.
Yeah.
Same time zone,
Yeah.
everything.
Antarctica.
You shoot polar bears, right? Like I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exclusively.
Polar bear photographer.
Yeah.
Weird that we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, lastly, I have to thank Cusco for not vomiting on my bed.
Oh yes,
for this
classic.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also need to thank Arrow for editing assistance on this podcast, and I don't know who else should we thank. We need to thank Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
We always need to thank Dwayne The Rock.
Yes, thank you for future president, I think, as well, or maybe king of the possibly king of the world. We might want to elect him king of the world because he does have really big arms, so that would help.
That's right.
I think, with a lot of things.
He would protect us all.
He would protect us from the alien invaders or whoever. Anyways,
That's right.
so that's the podcast, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right.
We're still working on the outro a little bit. So can you chip away
I
at
like
it
the
every
outside. I
time?
thought it worked pretty good.